Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is J.Inez, and welcome to the Purpose Porch. Dr. Kia Hood Scott, a pastor, a term not to be used loosely. A lot of us can preach. A lot of us preach about something every single day, but a pastor is special. A pastor is heavy because, to me, preaching on Sunday morning is only 10% of the calling. Dr. Kia Hood Scott, the pastor, understands that to feel God, you must feel the ones around you. She understands that the work of the community is most of the calling. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Kia Hood Scott to the porch. So tell me a little bit about who Kia is. Not doctor, not Scott, not pastor, not Rev, but who is Kia Hood?
Well, let me just say, I am a person that just loves people. And any chance I get a chance to talk to people, I like to always encourage them and always slip in a little Jesus to them as well. I think that's always important because I think that the pastoring moment is not just people who join your church. The pastoring moments are people that you see every day that I believe God sets up and sends your way. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So it's been a good journey.
Yeah.
It's been a good journey.
And it's been a journey since your childhood. You know, you grew up in Clayton, North Carolina, a very small town.
Yeah.
And you're a church kid. You
Grew up.
started in the church, grew up
Yeah.
in the church, so you got to Winston. Do you feel like the black church today still holds to the memories you have in Clayton, North Carolina?
I do. I do. Just like anything, Jessica, I think there's always room for improvement. The church is not a perfect place. And I think sometimes people get that a little mixed up. That this is a perfect place. No, we're not perfect. As a matter of fact, I love the way Bishop Mack puts it. He says, if you're looking for a perfect place, as soon as you join, it becomes imperfect.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think that the church, I think we all have room for improvement. But I do believe that they still hold a lot of values, and it's what you bring to the table. The world is different, and the needs have become magnified now, right? So now the church has to address things that we didn't talk about before, like mental health issues. You know, in the black community, you prayed it away, right? Can't do that. I tell people now you need prayer and a prescription, right? You need meditation and medication, right? So I think what the church has to do is to be open to discuss those issues and those concerns that affect the people that we serve. Because the challenge is for a lot of pastors, are you listening to the heartbeat of the people and where they are? That also means that you have to walk among them. You have to walk with them. You have to spend time with them. So what's happening, I see a lot in the churches now, is that pastoring has become more of popularity than a calling. Right? I want my name on a flyer. I want to be in the circuit. I want to, be big time, right? But anytime you're called by God, it's a big time.
Big time.
You big time. And I believe that when people take the calling seriously, and that the pulpit cannot be a stage, right? The place of worship has to be a place where we do not abuse people. We don't use the pulpit to pimp people, right? Begging for money from people when there are people in your congregation, because it's wrong, period, but especially when you have people who are barely making it, right? And we want people to squeeze, some pastors want people to squeeze their last dime so you can shine.
Yeah. What would you say can help this idea of church hurt and bring people back into the church? And then what can someone do if they are church hurt and they want to come back to church, but they just don't really know how?
Those are two great questions. So I would say that church, I do recognize that church hurt is a thing, and people talk about it all the time. I've had multiple conversations with people about church hurt, and I would say that you know people hurt people, hurt people. If it's intentional or not, it happens. What I would say to this generation and even to my generation, because there's those in their 40s and that don't go to church because that something happened at the church. All churches don't hurt you. It's not every church. And it's not everybody. It may be one or two people, but they don't speak for the 50. You know, Judas had a reason that he was sat at the table with Jesus. But we did not stop believing in the story because Judas betrayed Jesus. We did not. We believed that Jesus was resurrected. And just because Judas was awful don't mean that the rest of the 11 were. You always got one in the bunch. Always got one in the bunch.
I believe there is a problem in Black church with judgment. I posted on Instagram earlier today, and I asked people, what do you think about the state of the Black church right now? A lot of the statements came from a sense of judgment, which is why I believe megachurches are winning. Because, like you said, it's easy not to be judged because nobody even knows you're there. What can pastors do, or what do you do as a pastor to kind of stop that narrative, if you do?
Yeah, people gonna always have an opinion. That's just people, right? My job as a pastor is to be the example of that. And when I approach the sacred desk on Sundays, pulpit, or when I'm out during the week, my objective is not to judge people, but to show compassion and love to them. God does the judging, not me. All I can do is show you love and show you grace, and hopefully that you would do the same to me. Show me love and show me grace. Because I'm not a perfect pastor. I'm not a perfect Christian. I'm not. I make a lot of mistakes, Jessica. I things that I didn't even realize was mistakes, and that's why I'm so grateful for a spouse, because my husband checks me when I'm wrong, right? I have friends that check me and say, you shouldn't have done that. This is how that sounded, right? And because sometimes as a pastor, we don't always know, we don't know everything. And then the voice of the people can remind us, yeah, you might. But there has to be a level of confidence or a level of assurance that you have in God. Don't do that.
Yeah, and then again, going back to what people were talking about instead of Black church and why they're not going, was a judgmental part, but more specifically, homosexuality in the Black church. And one comment that really stood out to me was, we accept the gay man in the choir stand, and we love and adore him. But when there's a gay couple out in the congregation, we frown upon it. What do you say to gay people, gay couples who have just quite literally been shunned from specifically small Black church?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is education, right? Culturally and educational. We have to also think how a lot of people grew up, Jessica. It's just what they are accustomed to. And it may take some time, right? I'm going back to what I said, that instant gratification. Everybody wanted quickly, but it doesn't happen like that. And I think, I'm going back to that big word, the big G word beside God. God gives people some grace. Grace to grow. Grace to figure that thing out, where they stand with it. And I would say to anybody, not just those who are gay couples, I'm talking to anybody. Because people shun people out, not just with homosexuality, but Think about how they used to, if you got pregnant before marriage. Yeah, they used to make you stand in front of the church. The man didn't, but the woman had to ask for forgiveness.
Wow.
I've seen that for myself, you know? So you have all these isms that happens in church. But I think the church is slowly evolving and growing. And it looks a lot different than it did even 10 years ago. Church is very different. So I think what we have to do to anybody that's been shun out, if it's persons who are gay, people who have been ostracized because they had babies out of wedlock, people still judge that, right? They do that. Everybody in the church ain't like that. Everybody in the church is not like that. And find you a space where God exists. Find you a space that loves unconditionally. See, there is no conditions in love. I love the way it says love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast. Besides love bears all things, here's my favorite part of that scripture. It does not keep record of wrong. Right? There is no checklist when you love folks. So I would say to anyone, find you a sacred space. And I would challenge the church to redefine how we love people. Right? We love because he first loved us.
So why do you think that, going back to members who are in the LGBTQ community, why do you feel as if pastors don't talk about it as much? You think it is a topic that is scary for them because they don't know what to say? Or do you feel like they'll be canceled?
Cancel culture, yes, we cancel. I think it's political. I think some of it's political. I think some of it's educational.
When we say educational, what do you mean?
I think that people don't fully understand the LGBTQA community. A lot there. Yeah, I've had to learn it myself. Lottie dottie to everybody. I think there has to be conversation accompanied with action, right? I think a lot of pastors don't know how to approach it. I think they just don't know how. Do I think we need to get better at it? Yeah, I do. But again,
do you think that do you think there's a division there? Do you agree with me that there is a division between that community and the Black church?
I don't know if it's division, because I think we're getting more open to it now. And I'm just comparing in the last 20 years. I think we've become more open because it's a more open topic, right? I do believe that as ministry evolves even more, it will become something that you can't ignore. You won't be able to ignore it. It'll be everywhere. It'll be, and it is everywhere. It's everywhere you go. The topic is a hot topic. It even happened this week in Congress, So what affects us legislatively does affect us spiritually. And people don't think it does, but it does. So I just believe that the dialogue has to become how churches become more welcoming. What does that mean to be welcoming? And how
What does it mean to be welcoming?
I think
To not just that community, everyone.
to everyone. Yeah, because even not just with that community, but you also because my passion too is with persons with disabilities. I don't know if churches do a good enough job with that, and I'm not just talking about people with physical disabilities that you can see, but those disabilities you cannot see. How do you minister to a child who may have autism? I don't know if churches do a lot of that. And so I think welcoming means we take the time to understand. And I don't know if we have that type of conversation. Or if we ask the right questions. Now, here's the flip side. You have to sit at a table to be okay with people asking you questions. And you can't be offended when people don't understand. Because people are trying to ask questions to get an understanding so that they can do what they need to do to be more welcoming. And again, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. But I think with the right leadership in place in your ministries, in your churches, in your congregations, in your communities, that you can have these powerful dialogues and have change. And again, not just with LGBTQA community, persons with disabilities. How do we approach mental health? How do we approach persons who've been divorced? We don't talk about that. You know, how do we deal with persons with drug addiction? Right? But we dare not, because everybody in our family, somebody in our family got somebody to deal with something, right? Everybody. My own family. If it's alcohol, if it's crack cocaine, we know people who've been addicted, but we don't talk about it. Can I say this too? There are people in in our congregations that are functional they're functional, but they have addictions.
Oh, yeah.
You can't even see it. But they go home, they snort them a line.
Leaders in the church.
Yeah, snort them a line. And they sit right in our churches. I think it was Dr. Jamal Bryan the other week. He did an altar call, and he called people up who are dealers in the church to come up and pray for deliverance. And the people that came up didn't even look like it.
Wow.
So for me, the challenge of the church is we have to stop thinking that addiction look like something. We got to stop thinking that disabilities look like something. There are people in our congregation that struggle with something every day that we don't even discuss because we want to shout people to death. I can't remember what preach it was. They said we got a bunch of praise junkies. Everybody want to do a shout and dance and then leave here and they're the same person instead of challenging change in people. And so I would say we got to talk about that. Divorce, we don't talk about that. Healthy marriages. You know, there are couples that need that. A lot of churches, they don't match that. They don't talk about that kind of thing. And so, or people who are incarcerated, you know, who may have family members or son or daughter that's in prison. We have to minister to those. That's what I love about Union Baptist. You know, we try to minister to the whole person.
Yes.
We try to minister to the whole
It's a Sunday for just about everybody.
It is, and that's like to the whole person. And that's what ministry should be. It should be holistic.
How can we, as a younger generation, help those that are older to change? And not even change in a bad way, but just to evolve.
I would like to use the word adjust. And I think we have to be careful not to dismiss that our older generation, because we need to learn and get wisdom from them. I think what happens a lot, Jessica, is that people want things too fast. No one wants to be trained. No one wants to be taught. They go to Facebook University and think they know everything. they go to YouTube and they think they know everything. You get under some teaching. You need to let someone mentor you. I'm a little worried and concerned because people are so quick to want to take over, but don't know the first thing about business, about caring for people. Because again, pastoring is more than preaching on a Sunday morning. You said it's 10%. I'd say less than it. It's 5% preaching. 95% is how you care for the work of the church. And a lot of the younger generation, they don't want to be taught. They get mad and go start a church. They get mad and go off and go start a church. And doing something you weren't called to do. Now, you may be called a pastor, but in the right season. And a lot of times what's happening is they're called a pastor, but in the wrong season, too soon. And what happens when something's done too soon? It ain't developed.
Cake ain't good.
Cat ain't good when it come out of the oven too soon, right? And that's what we have a lot. And so then you come out too soon. The pulpit is a place where truth is taught and spoken. If you ever notice in a lot of churches, the pulpit is elevated and the people are here because it shows a sign of authority. And then what you say has truth and authority to it. But what we have happening now is, I don't know what's coming from up here now with this new age that it's not under nobody, you know. Has not gotten any teaching, hasn't studied Bible at all. I'm not trying to say everybody's got to go to Duke or Wake or anything like that, but go somewhere and get some training. And we cannot dismiss, again, goes back to the intergenerational. You cannot dismiss your seniors. They've been what we haven't. They. If it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for our grandparents and our great grandparents who were through the struggle of civil rights, you wouldn't even be able to do what you're doing.
They also have to understand that we have a knowledge that they don't.
Yes.
And the knowledge that we have is going to help them sustain. But what do you say to the churches that just won't adjust, like you said?
Yeah, adjust. There are some churches that won't adjust, and most of them will die out. They will die out. Doing youth ministry for 13 years, I used to tell churches, if you don't have youth in this church, your church won't make it. You won't make it. And that's true, because who you going to have to carry this? If everybody in here, it won't make it. If you don't adjust, you won't make it. I think, again, we have to have everybody at the table. It has to be a dialogue that everyone needs at the table. Youth needs seniors and seniors need youth. Now, I believe anything too fast ain't good. Because there's a difference between growth and swelling. Most time when you swell, it means an infection somewhere. But when you grow, that means it's taking this right metamorphosis, this right space to develop into what needs to be. Black folks, we ain't gonna die. And the black church ain't either. We are people of resilience. And I believe if we keep at it, and keep working, keep preaching, keep loving people, keep caring for people, and go back to what God has called us to do. If I be lifted up on the earth, we lift him and he'll do the drawing. See, people ain't been lifting him.
That's the overall problem.
Yes, we ain't lifting God. We lift ourselves. We lift ourselves and we miss the mark every time. But I think the church is slowly, and even COVID taught us that. COVID taught us that. COVID, we were shut down for 2 years. Most of us. Some churches still went on and, didn't do what they're supposed to do. But hey, that's neither here nor there. I ain't getting those conversations. But I think COVID taught us that we got too busy being churchy instead of being the church. And God, I mean, it just got shut down, Jess. It got shut down. And we realized that the building was just a building. It was just a building. The church is us. We are the church. So when you said, do I believe the black church? No, because I am the black church, and I ain't going nowhere.
And I am yet
I am yet alive, and I will keep preaching the unadulterated word of God. I will keep preaching liberation. I will keep preaching to the black souls. I will keep preaching and do justly and love mercifully. That's what I'm going to preach. I'm going to preach the gospel, simple, full, and free. I'm going to keep preaching. I'm going to keep loving people. I'm going to love them. I'm going to hug on them. I'm going to make sure you know, when you leave this church, you're going to know that God loves you, that we love you. That's what I believe. That's what the black church is all about. How I'm going to make sure every young person come out and leave this place feeling like a superstar. So what is the black church for me? The black church for me is me doing what God has called. I am the black church. You are the black church. And we're going to keep doing this thing. I'm not going to let it die. I ain't going to let it die. I was called to help it live.
Thank you so much for stopping by the porch. And as always, we enjoyed your company. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at J.Inez_ for more great videos just like this one. And until next time, peace.